Welcome back to the Yoga Chat. I'm your host, Montana.
I'm your host, May. We're super excited to have our guest on today, who is probably a familiar name for most of you yogis in Pittsburgh, the one and only Suzanne Nagel. She's been practicing yoga for 28 years. She's from Pittsburgh. And a fun fact about Suzanne is that she came in second at the Western PA Spelling Bee at the Buell, am I pronouncing that right? Buell Planetarium, which is now the Children's Museum.
Yeah.
It was the competition was hours long, and she was up against 150 kids from Western Pennsylvania. And if you win, you get to go to the National Spelling Bee, and you win. If you win that, you get 50K. That's a lot of money for
Wow.
the
Yeah.
80s. She
Mhm.
lost on the word crewel work, which is a type of knitting, and I'm an adult, and I would have never known what that is even now. So I can see how you might have lost it on that one.
Mhm.
Welcome, Suzanne. How are you?
Yes. Thank you. It was devastating. Got so close, and my path would have been altered, I don't know where it could have taken me, you
You'd
know.
ended up on Jeopardy.
I I might have. I was such a good, spelling was a thing for me. I still am a pretty good speller. Yeah, like it's photogenic memory. And I think we think about yoga sequencing, that's a little bit, there's that
Helpful.
photogenic memory or remembering things, memorization. So maybe that played a role.
I
Yeah,
wish I would
totally.
have thought of this ahead of time, but we could have planned like a Sanskrit spelling bee
It
and just
Oh,
started
would be
throwing pose
evil.
names at you. That would
I'm
have been
not bad
fun.
at it.
Maybe
I'm
we'll
not
have
bad
to
at it.
we'll have to revisit that for a future episode of just like
Okay.
Sue's spelling bee, Sanskrit spelling bee.
Suze's Sanskrit spelling
Spelling bee.
bee
We'll do it live with wine, and that could get pretty wild pretty
live with
fast.
wine. Oh boy, we could get
I
in
think that's going to be a good idea.
trouble.
We could get in trouble, but it would be really fun.
It would be
Trouble
really
is
fun.
always welcome.
Yeah.
So, Suze, how are you today? Thanks for coming on.
I'm great. The sun is shining. I've been positively happy. I went to Florida to visit my mom at the end of February, and my mom is a snowbird, and I try to like, my husband and I have this like strategic thing where like we just hold on till like the end of February, and we're like, Mom, I'm like, can I come down? And then I go and I do that little hump, and then go there. It's always too short. It's like a few days. But this time I feel like it was really clutch because I came back and we've been in a really good spot. I feel like I dragged some really nice weather back and
Hmm.
it's just really nice out. I was outside this morning with my doggies. I was dealing with my plants and just different things this morning and got into the office back here. I do admin on Tuesdays. I'll teach this evening at 6:15 here in the strip. And I have meetings. When I get off with you guys, I'll have some meetings. My merchandising manager will come in, have a meeting with her, and then I'll teach. And then I have another meeting with a teacher after class. So it's kind of my day.
So, you're
So
saying that being the owner
nice.
of a yoga studio isn't super easy and relaxing all the time?
No, it's not. I am like so exhausted. I was exhausted yesterday. Yesterday I was in one of those, I did go to bed pretty like early last night and needed some sleep. I was done. I was done. I was done with yoga last night.
I
I
hear
was
you.
done. I went home
Then
from
you
my
woke up.
class and I was like, "Ooh."
Kaput.
I
Mhm.
think,
Before we get too far,
oh,
Suze, what's your sun
yes,
sign? And if you
you
know your
remembered this
moon,
time.
yeah. And if you know your moon and rising, share those too. Do you know your sun
I
sign?
know all my signs.
Okay,
Okay,
great.
so my sign is Capricorn. And my moon sign is Aquarius, and my rising is Taurus.
Ooh.
I'm an
Yeah,
Aquarius moon too. We're weirdos. It's fun.
yeah, I'm a weirdo. Yeah.
Hey,
We
we're
all
all
are.
weirdos.
Yeah.
Yeah, thank you, Montana. That's something we always start with, and usually I have to remind Montana to
Yeah.
ask,
The
but now
the
she
I am
reminded
tables
me.
have
really a
turned.
classic. But I'm not really good at the astrology. One of my teachers here, Paige Kramer, is very into astrology and the zodiac, and she does give me a lot of information about that. But one thing I definitely know about Capricorn a lot because that's the classics, the sun sign that I am. And so all my life I've heard about And I really do feel like I am a classic Capricorn.
That
It
makes
really,
Classic
sense that you're a studio owner then too, because like I'm sure you juggle a lot of hats or wear a lot of hats, juggle a lot of things, and that like organization skill set is more natural and innate to Capricorns generally. So maybe that helps you in some way. When's your birthday?
I do. I think Capricorns like to be the boss. I
Yeah.
think it's in my childhood. There's a funny story. My dad, later on in life, he had this thing saved in the garage. It was like a piece of cardboard, and it was something that I had wrote on as a kid, probably like maybe first, second grade. It's like kid handwriting and marker, and it was the rules of the fort. And my dad saved it because he thought it was so funny because apparently we had a fort, and it was like the pine trees in the backyard were the fort. And he collected it one day because he saw it like, propped up in there, and we weren't using it anymore, but he thought it was so funny that he saved it. And all the rules were like, do not talk back to the boss. Do the boss does this? The boss is like these rules were like really funny. No bikes in the fort, no this, no that. Like there was just like a list of like all these things that you couldn't do, and they were all in my handwriting. And apparently I was the boss of the fort. And my dad just thought it was hilarious. And he was like, oh, so, he brought it out and was like, look at Susan. She's like 9 and she has like a list this long about what you can and can't do in the fort.
That is very
And my
Capricorn.
sister was like, oh my God, this is so Suzanne. Like, even the Barbies were like, your Barbie can't do this, and your Barbie can't do that, and your Barbie must stay, your Barbie can't cross this line. And, like, and it just apparently that was what I
Order,
did.
order.
Mm-hmm.
When's
Sure.
your
You like
birthday?
rules?
My birthday is January 18th.
18th. Okay, cool.
Michelle Obama.
Huh? We go
Yeah.
high.
Spirit. Yeah. We go. There's a lot
So,
of, I have numerous people that have twin January 18th birthdays with me. Some even students that have my same
Oh,
birthday.
cool.
Yeah.
That's fun. That's
I
fun.
love me a Capricorn.
Yeah, my
Mhm.
mom's a
I'm
Capricorn.
nothing, yeah, I'm nothing like a Capricorn, but I'm married to one. My best friends are Capricorns. My
Yeah.
husband is a triple Capricorn, which basically makes him the most stable person on the planet, which is
Oh, wow.
it's good because I'm not. So he
I'm
keeps me.
married to a Scorpio.
Oh, they're
Mm.
fun too. They're
They're
fun.
fun.
So there you go. You
Caps and
you probably balance
Scorpios
him
like
out.
each other a lot, I feel like. I've
Hmm.
noticed that I have a lot of Scorpio friends that are like my favorite people.
Hmm.
hmm
Um,
My
so
best
I
friends are all
you
Scorpios. My husband's a Scorpio. It's weird.
It's always funny how like signs do that. Like I am a
yes.
Sagittarius and I lean toward Gemini and Leos.
Oh,
Like all
really?
my friends are Gemini and Leos. I do, one of my best friends is a Capricorn, but she's like the only one.
Ah, interesting.
All right, let's get to the yoga stuff because I feel like you have a lot to
Yeah,
share and there's a
definitely.
lot that I want to ask you. And the
Okay.
reason why we wanted you to come on was because I was in a yoga rut, I would call it, back in the fall.
Okay.
And you teach a lot and you kind of abandon being a student sometimes. And I came to your class on Sunday morning and it just made me happy. And we threw a lasso in Warrior One to take us back into Warrior Two. And I was like, oh, I'm in the right place. We just threw a lasso into Warrior Two and I'm happy. Um, so
Yeah.
I've been thinking, I just like the way you approach yoga, and it's very clear that you take it very seriously and you honor the traditions of it, but you keep it light and you keep it playful. And I think that's just my favorite way to practice and to share it myself.
Yeah.
So we really wanted to have you on just to talk about your unique style, how you came to it. So starting from the beginning, can you just like start from the beginning? How did you
Yeah,
find yoga?
so I was in my day, because I'm a bit older, I came to it because I used to dance and do gymnastics all as a kid. And I think didn't know it really, but I think I was doing yoga-ish. Um, and I was in a very stressful job in straight out of college. I was a television news producer, And I got real stressed. And that kind of job, you a lot of times will work in the middle of the night and different things. And it's a really stressful job. And I really wanted that. I so much wanted that for myself. I wanted to be like at the time I saw myself living in like New York City and being a journalist, and I really pushed for that career, and I was trying so hard to do that. And I worked at the news stations here, and I left Pittsburgh and worked in different places. And I really tried really hard to do that. And I couldn't, um, I just, I got sick. I got a stomach ulcer in my early 20s. And it really affected me mentally, my circadian rhythms. And I was just, basically like a vampire. I was asleep when other people were awake, awake when other people were asleep. It wasn't what I thought it was going to be. It was just all death and destruction, you know, the news. And it was just not what I thought. And this was in my early 20s. And one day I just I was kind of engaged to my college sweetheart. Um, I became really depressed, and I quit. Like, really found myself like walking into the news director's office, and I just quit. And I was making a lot of money for a young person at that time. And this really upset my mother and my family and everything, of course, because I'm young, and um, you know, I have bills to pay and whatnot. And I was just lost. And so it kind of was, I was having a mental situation. And the therapist told me to do some yoga. And at the time, yoga was like in the community center I went to in Squirrel Hill. There was a community center, carpeted community center, fluorescent lighting. I wore sweatpants. I loved it. I paid by check. It was a 6 week session. You paid it up front, go or don't go. Um, Everyone in the room was way older than me. And we did Viparita Karani, legs up the wall right out of the gate. It was great. I didn't know anything about anything really, except that I knew that I liked the movements. It made me feel a lot better. I attended the whole session. I was obsessed with the teacher. She was something like I had never really, there was something about her and what she was putting out there. Then that just kind of built. I followed her around to all the different community centers she would teach at, like in Edgewood and Regent Square and all this stuff. And then my journey kind of moved on, and I got married. I got pregnant with my son. I started doing prenatal yoga, different things like that. Eventually, and I went into marketing. I shifted out of the news business. I was teaching preschool a little bit, different things. Eventually, in the late 90s, the kind of vinyasa scene that you see now in Pittsburgh started to come on. South Hills Power Yoga came on the scene. I was living in the South Hills, and my sister's really into Pilates. She's always on whatever the next new thing is to do fitness wise. And she was like, there's this cool like thing called hot yoga. We should do it. I remember I'm only doing like this community center, very hatha driven practice. I went with her to hot yoga at South Hills Power Yoga. It was wonderful. As it turned out at the time, um, there was people that I knew there, and it was so hard. I was like, holy shit. I was drenched. It was really hard. I couldn't believe this vinyasa, well, a power yoga style of yoga. And the same thing, yoga flow, same thing. That had opened up in Shady Side. My sister took me there. I loved it. Absolutely loved it. I was obsessed with the whole thing, the teachers, everything. I loved it. Absolutely loved it. So I made it a point for me that was in I had my son, and that became like whenever I had time as a mom to meet my sister and some of my friends. We had certain classes we would go to, and I just used it as my space for me. and I loved it. And I noticed an immediate impact on my mental health and well-being, and quite frankly, my physicality. I became stronger and stronger and stronger. It was just something that I really looked forward to all the time. And I thought that the vinyasa practice um, was just wonderful. Um, I found myself constantly like imagining when I'd be in class, like what it must like be like to be one of those teachers. And I existed like that for a long time, just being a student for a long time. I remember the first time that I didn't look at the schedule. This is a long time ago. This is much before there's no websites really. There's no Mind Body. There's none of that. You don't book before. You just show up there. Everything is just swipe your credit card. There's punch cards for your wallet. Like there's none of this, what you see today. And one time I walked into the class, which was actually a workshop. I didn't look, they put the schedule like you would get like it would be like posted, like like listed. It actually was a workshop, and that's how I learned a headstand because I accidentally came to what I thought was a regular class, and it was actually a workshop that day. And I was like, oh well, fuck! I drove all the way from the South Hills. Oh, sorry, I said
We
whatever.
say
Um,
ungodly things on here. Don't worry about it.
Okay, all right. So, I ended up just like being like, oh, because I always wanted to do a headstand anyway, and I kind of had done it when I was a kid, and everything, but I like didn't. I learned a headstand, was really excited. In any case, at some point, my one friend, she had signed up for teacher training at the South Hills Power Yoga, and another friend of mine had done amazing yoga's teacher training. Well, I was drinking wine one night at home in my house, and I was surfing the internet now on these websites and this was like, I was just about to be 40 years old. And I don't know, curious. I think I filled out like the thing about wanting to take teacher training. Some of the yoga teachers at the studio at Yoga Flow had, kept telling me how fun it was and things like that. And I thought I would do it. So I did it. I jumped and did it. And it was the greatest thing that I ever did. I really honestly was terrified. I drove to the studio not knowing anyone. I was one of the oldest people, um, aside from like one other person and the two other people in the room. It was the most fun I was literally drunk with like how exciting and you know from my I was so excited to learn. I just took everything in. I'm just kind of nerdy too, like in the sense that I like to learn and have a pencil and a booklet and just kind of like and then just come home and like make my kids like go in the dining room and like push the table away and be like, you're the students, and just obsessed. And that's kind of how the journey began. And I think it was for me just really eye-opening, um, to take something that I had been practicing for so long and take it into this level. I never thought in a million years. I'm really shy generally, and I used to get like terrified at school to get up and do a book report or anything like that. I tell that to my teacher trainees all the time now. Like literally I had diarrhea. Like I would be like, like the night before. I couldn't do anything like that as a kid. I would be really nervous. Like I would try to make up excuses why I couldn't go to school the next day. But somehow or another I got through that, and I persevered through it. I think that the training was so beneficial to me in so many ways, for community, and it brought about so many friendships. It opened my eyes to different things. It was an incredible journey. Um, and then, I really just jumped right in and started to teach. Um, I got really interested in different styles. of teaching. And then I started to take some other trainings, and um, some inspiration came to me in the form of a particular teacher in the West Coast, named Kate Dunn. And she was the inspiration for me overall, I think, for how I developed. I took some of her trainings. I went to Los Angeles to take trainings with her. It was like, for me, a dream come true. I literally got an Airbnb, and my kids were old enough at this point, and I was like, "Hey, husband, you step up here, and I'm gonna go and do this." And it was quite weird. I really never had traveled alone and did something like this. I mean, at this point, I'm a mom. My whole life revolves around, getting my kids to school and doing these kinds of things. So that was a big leap. And just like being in this Airbnb, and I got a bike, and, driving around Los Angeles on my bike and getting to the studio for this training. And I was the only one from the East Coast. Everybody was from the area. And one of the things that was really amazing to me was that, I was learning all these things, that it was opening up my eyes to other things, and I was really interested in it. I made a lot of friendships, so that was really cool. And it was interesting too, because I met a girl there that had the same birthday as me, and we've been friends ever since. So that was really cool. We called ourselves Capricorn twin sisters, and I still talk to her to this day. Um, and uh, that inspired me into a whole world of what's called Lotus Flow, which is a lineage based on a studio that was created in the middle, earlier middle 90s, by a woman named Dana Trixie Flynn, who had come up with this. She was an MTV VJ, believe it or not, way, way back in the day. And she had created a style that was very much inspired by dance and movement, and then was combining that with yoga. And that style really spoke to me. When I took these classes, it was like everything just was the combination of what I already was doing and what I had been taught. And then these classes was like, boom. It just was like me. I just loved it. So I wanted to learn everything about it. And I did try to, like, immerse myself in it. Obviously, I live on the East Coast, so, and cost wise and everything, it couldn't move my life and do all that. Um, a lot of the people that were in the training there with me went on to teach and stuff in those studios there in LA and things like that. But I came home, and I just started to kind of use what I learned and teach, and try to like infuse it into the styles that I was already teaching. But I knew that if I could, I would like to take some of that and try to create my own styles. And what they did in that style was very different from what I had been taught, but also it was similar, but also it wouldn't necessarily work in the way that the students that I was familiar with, or the setting that I was in. So I really needed to kind of adapt the things that I learned to the audience that I had, in the way that would be comfortable for me to teach as well. And then obviously there's things that you learn, and it's like maybe you like a lot of it, but maybe you don't like some of it, or not that you don't like, but it won't work for the way that you teach, right? Or something like that. So I think in essence, I started to kind of use some of the ideas that I had learned and incorporate them into my teaching. And that was really where some of the style developed. And then I realized that I started to do that, I had sort of developed a pattern. And that pattern just started, it was small at first and didn't have really it didn't have like a it wasn't specified yet. It wasn't written down. It wasn't like, you know, it hadn't been carved out. It just was kind of like I learned this, so I like this kind of like move, and then maybe I should repeat that or something. And then I started to realize that the more that I followed certain patterns, it was helpful to the students that were in my classes. They started to really learn better. And then I started to learn that they responded in a way that was very positive towards what I was putting out there. And that reinforced that for me. It felt really good to know that what was feeling good for me in terms of the way that I was teaching was feeling good for them and how that they were responding to that. So I kind of started to like refine that. And I think that's really where it was where it became like a thing, if you will. And then here we are today. I've actually like, I kind of have like, a manual, we have like a whole little doodad or and we have, it's taken a while to like really refine it in the way that I actually have like a methodology, and I created it in the sense that, I've refined it over time in my own way and how I really create a pattern. And then on top of that, have like, you know, understood why I'm doing what I'm doing, and then communicate that when I train people. So it's a journey for sure, and the inspiration comes from all different places. And then you kind of um, refine it as you go, where you learn what works and what doesn't work, you know. This is kind of how it evolved
I
over
think it's
time.
really cool that you like had the patience, which probably also tracks Capricorn, but that you had the patience to get yourself to a place where you understand like it can always evolve and it will always evolve and you're going to continue to grow. But you were at a place where you took the time to create something that was solidified enough to open up a studio and create a training to support others in doing that. Because I feel like sometimes people get so excited about the outcome or the end goal that they miss the part that you just said you took so much time doing, which is clear, which is why I think the Ohm Lounge is such a staple in Pittsburgh. And it's we talk about this actually in the podcast a lot, but what you guys do there is different than any other yoga studio. And the reason why is because it's exactly what you just said. It's yours. You took all of the things from the different trainings that you were able to experience and then blended them in your own way and then share them through the lens of your own experience. And that's sort of what I feel even from other teachers in your studio. There is definitely a framework, but it's not like a bunch of Suses teaching, right? It's like there's this framework, but they're able to take what they've learned from their different trainings and then share that through the lens of their heart.
Sure.
And it's there's a baseline, but it's all very unique to each person. And I think that's just really admirable that like and a reminder that it takes time and to have patience to build something great.
Well, that's the whole thing too, is the idea that the last thing that I want to do is have like cookie cutter. I don't like that because I wouldn't like that. I don't want that. I wouldn't like to teach like that. And I don't think students respond to that. So what I really look for is people that are able to work with the framework. And I think the framework needs to support the voice of the teacher. So the framework is meant to be like a structure that allows for teachers. So I think one of the things that trips teachers up is the time that it takes to create a beautiful class that is uh like they'll get caught with this like, well, how do I teach like that? Or how do I make this feel a certain way and bring it through, and then they want to outdo themselves every time, or they want to prove something, or all these kinds of things. And they'll see or watch certain teachers, and they'll be like, and then they'll grasp at all these moves or transitions or whatever, and it becomes this like more like, I gotta wow them, rather than understanding what the method is behind that. What is the meat that is, really the meat that the people are sinking their teeth into? Why does it feel so good? What is making people enjoy the movement, and why? What is the why? And so what my method, what I'm trying to cultivate here, is something that is serving the teacher in their creation process, but not taking away from their voice. So that is essentially what I'm trying to do, is like allow them to have a tool, and then they can use that tool so that my teachers are creating these incredible classes, but they don't have to like slave over them, or in other words, like I wanted it to be able to be like so teachers could turn around classes at a faster pace, not have to be like, oh my God, I can't. Like, this was a problem that I saw in the industry that I think is problematic. So what happens when you have a teacher that's been teaching like 6 months or a year, and they love it, and you got a really popular teacher, and she hurt her back this morning, and she needs an emergency sub, and everyone else is, you know it's shit out of luck, right? But this person is like, I don't really have like, I taught that class, like I don't have like anything in the hopper kind of, you know what I mean? And they like freak out because like in their mind, it's like to make something would be like, oh, you know what I mean? And they overwhelm. And I'm like, nah, if you're using this method, you should be able to put this together. And it's not because you're a robot, and it's not because you don't have to think about it. It's because the method will serve you, because your training is so good, right? It's so you're in it, and you can understand what you need to put in, that you won't have to stress like that, and you can be that level of teacher without having to be like, oh my God, I have to sit here for 2 hours and be like, wait, and like, and that's what prohibits people from going further. And then these people just become, they hold themselves back from taking on other classes, because they're like, oh, I can't, I like, it's just too much. Or they can't, like, because they don't want to commit. um it's too much work. uh they can't, they're worried about the way people view, like they want to be fresh, but they don't want to repeat classes because they're worried the students will judge them, because so I have tools for how to merge your class from one day to the next. Do you think, as much as I teach, and the pressure to be a studio owner, that's something that, think about how that feels from a person's point of view, where, okay, you're a studio owner, and then you set a bar, right, a long time ago, where people are like, oh, her classes are really creative. And then I thought, oh, well, I'll have two different studios so I could teach this class here and there. No, they'll just come to me. So, okay, so what am I going to do? I have to be able to take this class and merge it to the next class. I can't sit there all day creating classes. I got a life.
Hmm.
So I have to be able to think on my feet, merge a class pretty quickly, and also merge it what I call on the fly. And I have to have a skill set to be able to do that. And I have to train other teachers to do that. Otherwise, I can't clone myself. So,
Like there's freedom in the structure that you're,
yeah,
it's like if you hand someone a blank canvas and you're like, paint anything and make it beautiful, they're going to be
yeah.
like, what the
And my
fuck should
mom
I
could be
paint?
a yoga
I have no
instructor.
idea what to do. But if you give
Right.
them a canvas and you're like, paint something with a beach and a rainbow and give them that little idea to begin with, they're going to be able to concentrate and like find the structure within that. Like me and Montana talk about this a lot because our studio has we have specific formats for each class. And a lot of teachers that, are used to, they're not used to that. They're like, well, this is going to ruin my creativity. How am I going to teach if I can't? But essentially, you can use the formatting, the methodology to enhance your creativity because you can stay within the structure to create the creativity that you want. And it actually helps you organize your thoughts rather than bog you down.
Do you guys find that some teachers get real bent out of shape about that?
Yeah.
Like, 'cause I think it for me, I really, from my teacher trainings on, I try to explain to teachers that aren't, well, for me, when they're brand new into teacher training, I explain that from the get-go. And so what I find is that the teachers that are coming from my trainings are already aware,
Hmm.
so much so that if they went to a studio where everything was just whatever goes, they're like, what's happening? Kind of vibe.
Yeah.
But they wouldn't understand that. But then it's like if people come from that kind of like whatever goes background, they're very confused about coming into a structured methodology, and they fear that it's going to, like, they I think there's a fear
Like
that
being
it takes
boxed.
away from them. And I agree with you. I think it's more like what I say to them is I call those the kitchen sink classes, everything in the
Hmm.
kitchen sink. And I'm like, what you don't understand is the real puzzle, the real art is to use a framework. And because I liken it to, and I say, if you gave my mom 24 hours, if you give her, an indefinite amount of time in a blank page, she can make a sequence.
Hmm.
Okay. Anybody can. That's not the art of
Right.
sequencing. The art, it comes from, there is 60 minutes in a class, there is a framework, and then we have to find the art, the beauty of how the shape comes together and how it does that. And there's all different frameworks and structures, and I think that's what's really cool. Like whatever serves whatever branded sequencing or studio, or you know all over the country, these different brands or lineages or whatever they're doing. And I'm fascinated. There's a man named Anton Mackey who I think has a really cool sequencing format. He's always coming up with, and the way that he does his sequencing, I think is really amazing. I think, like, I'm very interested and have a lot of respect for all the different kinds of like methodologies that teachers come up with and the creativity of these things. I do think that studio owners or whomever is running programs or things like that that has methodologies, I think it's very important for business. I think that studio businesses need them because
Hmm.
business wise, I don't think it serves a studio to have kitchen sink classes, because I think it's like you guys said, like different formats for different classes is great because, like, you have your restorative, you have a format, whatever, whatever. And that's not what I mean, like different
Right.
classes is good. I mean, like, if you have classes that the structural methodology for, if you say vinyasa, it is this type. Because if you don't, I think one of the biggest complaints from a customer's point of view is if they go and they don't know like vinyasa on Monday at 6 o'clock or something, and there's a teacher, and the way that that teacher, they might do vinyasa, and then another teacher's vinyasa, and they're like, whoa,
What is
whoa,
this?
whoa, whoa, whoa. Yeah. And then what happens is, how is a studio going to sell memberships or keep client base if the studio, if a student is like, well, I can't, all the vinyasa classes are so different, wildly different, then I can only count on the fact that on Mondays, this one teacher does it the way I like it.
Mhm.
When I have teachers that have left the Om Lounge like and moved away, okay, so they'll go away, they'll live somewhere, they'll go to another town, city, whatever, Chicago, for example. They'll say they go there, they go into a studio, they will search around with the new client specials, whatever. They'll they'll say, it takes them a while, but they'll be very confused and till they find a place that has that type of thing, because it's hard. They'll be like, oh, I can't find a place where I can find that, like count on, where it's consistent and it's very teacher based.
Hmm.
And that to me is problematic from a business point of view. Now, remember, for a very long time, I was a student, not a studio owner. So I have a very much a heart of of a teacher before a studio owner. And then I come into this studio owner vibe. And immediately when I first become a studio owner, I come at it from a teacher point of view,
Mm.
because I want to be a people pleaser. And I want to do it from that point of view. Like, oh, I'm going to be the most teacherish studio owner there ever existed, right? Well, that lasted like 1 minute. As if you want to go broke, you'll do it that way,
Yeah,
right?
reality. Well, I think
Oh,
too,
yeah.
what you're describing is like accountability starts with consistency. So, just for any human. And so, in order to get someone to be accountable to the community and to want to create a consistent practice for themselves, that is malleable, because everyone's life, I mean, it would be great if we were like, on Mondays, we do this, on Tuesdays, we do this, but life is always changing. And so, having uh, studios based on specific teachers doesn't give you that space to be flexible in your practice. And it's actually like, so it's just less consistent, like you said. And having studios where it's based on the methodology. And of course, everyone's going to have their preferences. Like, I prefer this teacher over this teacher, but you're still going to go to a class and know what you're getting yourself into and appreciate it for what it is, even if you enjoy a different teacher's personality better. You'll go to their class the next week, whatever.
Right. That like if you get in your like maybe you're getting your hair done one week and
Right.
you your normal your life, people generally do structure their classes around what works in their life,
Hmm.
their time, their job, their family. And they might really like a teacher for sure. I mean, yeah, they do. Sometimes people really get into a teacher or develop certain relationships, and that's great. I really think in my business, I see in students going across the board.
Hmm.
And I love that. They know that if they miss their Monday class, they can go on Wednesday, they can go on Tuesday, and go on Thursday. And that is really something I'm very proud of in my business, because you know it's moving uh, it's moving away from also teachers being pitted against one another. That's a really big problem overall, I think. And I mean, you can't solve all the problems. Um, but I think that when we're all working in the same methodology at the one studio, at least not one teacher's like, well, this, I don't do that style,
Yeah.
like or something. You know what I
I'm
mean? Like, this
different
is
than
the
everyone
method
else.
that, what?
I'm different than everyone else. I'm the only one
Right.
that does
Like
it this way.
you guys had on your podcast. I was watching the podcast because I hadn't watched it before after you guys asked me about it. I don't, I'm old.
No.
So I sound like, what's her face? Kristen Wiig. I'm old.
I'm old.
I'm just getting into podcasts. Excuse me about that. My husband's so into podcasts. I'm just getting into them. I've realized now that I've been missing the boat. I was always listening to music, 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 and now I'm like just jumping into podcasts. There's so many. I can't even, I'm like, I need to drive places, so I can listen. And I got in, I was, you guys had what's his face? My
Bradshaw,
guy.
Bradshaw Wish. Yeah.
And yeah, when he does the one thing where he's like, the teacher from India is back.
Yeah.
In India,
uh,
we do it this way.
he was
I
great.
I just crack up but that's what I mean is like it's it's like, at the Own Lounge, you're everybody here is gonna teach this methodology, and you can be you, but we're all gonna teach this methodology. And so nobody here is going to be like, no, I do it this way.
Yeah.
And so
Exactly
like we're not going to have any of the teachers like
No competition.
doing that to one another.
Right.
You know what I mean? Like treating one another as though like some other person's way is less than, or whatever, whatever, whatever. This kind of like, I don't know, whatever that is. It's
I
weird.
think that
But
like it really is what builds community too. And like, isn't that why we do yoga? To like be in a room with people, like-minded people, like moving and breathing. Like that's why doing it in my living room isn't enough for me. Like I don't have a home. Some people do, I know, and it's great. I don't have
yeah,
a home practice because for me, like it is the community. And if I feel pitted against the other people that are leaders in that community, or if I feel like I'm better than them or they're acting like they're better than blah, 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 then it's like, well, that's literally the opposite of why I go to a yoga studio. So
yeah. I
we're
do feel like that, and unfortunately, there is a dirty secret about yoga that I think that, is that, just because you do yoga doesn't mean you're not an asshole.
right.
Like
bingo.
any other world, place, business, whatever. My husband always says like like, I don't know that people really know this, but you yoga people are crazy.
Yeah.
And I mean, he is just, there's a lot of that. And I think that, the insecurities at times of um, yoga teachers, uh, are, this is what my husband says, they're like actresses.
hmm
So in some ways that ego driven part of it is something that yoga teachers always have to look in the mirror and check with themselves on. I mean, all of us, myself included, like, your ego can be constantly, you know, uh, thrown back in your face all the time. Like you check in with yourself. It's hard to handle rejection or the fact that you're not for everyone. And um that's tough. And I do think that's something that I think teacher trainings in particular, we've put a lot of focus in our teacher trainings now into a section that we call the business of yoga, but also teaching yoga beyond the poses. And that is in the psychological parts of being a yoga teacher, rejection, authenticity, your ego, and the fact that it's not about you. This is something that is really, really important. This took me a bit to learn, like that it's just not about you.
hmm
Like it's not about what you want to teach tonight.
Yeah.
It's not about like, like there's so many aspects of understanding like how it actually is a service. It's
hmm
like going to a hairdresser and you really want a certain um, you know, service, you want to like think about that head massage and you want like, you know, to be treated a certain way and you want them to give you attention when you're there. And then you want to explain how you want to look and how you want, you know, and it's really important because it's your hair, you know, and like you got to wear it and you want the service, but you also want them to hear you and see you and understand you. And if they just, first of all, ignore you, second of all, rush you through, third of all, like don't listen to your concerns. And if they just chop your hair and don't like, you know, the hairdresser that just cuts your hair too short or doesn't listen to the whatever, you know,
Hmm.
it's the same way with a yoga teacher. Like
Yeah.
if you make it all about you and it's just because what you want is like going in and teaching arm balances to people that, you know, can't do them or you know, and I say that meaning like if you got to look at what who you're teaching, you know, reading the room and looking at what where you are. I saw this like thing the other day on yoga threads, and this teacher was mad because she was really wants to put really big spirituality into her classes. She wants to teach the yamas and the niyamas. She wants to really infuse the like chanting. She wants to put all this stuff into her classes. But she's teaching what it seems like to me in a very westernized power yoga studio. And it's not being received well. And she wants really to expose these people to what she wants. She's really into it. She's really in these things and whatever. And she's mad, you know, and my thing would be like, you know, you'll find your people, but it might not be there, you know,
Hmm.
like you can't force it. You know, like if you one of the things that I say to my teacher trainees is, you know, I've learned who my audience is and what they're willing to take in of that in manageable chunks and how much of that they'll digest
Mhm.
and where I am, like physically, literally, like where I am in Pittsburgh and who I'm who I'm teaching to,
Hmm.
and that matters. Know where you are physically and who your audience is and what they want from you. If you change that game on them too, like and you just all of a sudden walk in one day and you're like, you know, and change it, that's not going to feel very good. So I always tell people too, I'm like, that's why if I want to do something specifically different, I'll make it a workshop. Then I can say, like, if you're interested in this, you can come to it. It's a workshop.
Hmm.
And then the people that really want it can come. But my thing is like you can't just expect if you're teaching like say at core power yoga or something, and that's a style and it's a way and it's the way that they're, you know, there's nothing wrong with that. That's what they want to do. And that's and that's okay. I'm not one of these people that feel like we all have to do it all the same way. Like I don't agree with that. I'm not sure. I don't like the idea that we all have to like do it the same or that everybody has to practice in the same way. I feel like yoga can be your yoga. You know, your yoga, how you want to practice it. Um, and if you know like I like enjoy yoga sculpt, you know, I like that piece of it. And I feel like I was fearful for a long time to add that into the Om Lounge because there was so much like I don't
That's
know
not yoga. That's not yoga.
yeah I was
You're not allowed to
afraid.
Opinions,
teach that.
just
Yeah.
opinions.
And
Yeah
that's fine. The thing is, if that's not something you align with, if you don't want to come to a yoga class that has weights involved or fast or heavy music, you don't have to go to the class. Things can just
Yeah.
exist in the world, and you can just leave them there. You can just leave them alone and let them exist. And you're allowed to have an opinion about it, but you don't need to change the way everyone does everything because you don't agree. And I think
Yeah.
that across the board is a lot, just a lot of yoga teachers coming at each other for the way they choose to share
Yeah.
the yoga.
Hmm.
And there's space for all of it. And if our goal as a whole, as people who have decided we want to share yoga, our goal is to create spaces for more people to be involved and to practice yoga because we believe in it and it did something to change all of our lives enough that we wanted to share it. So the more people there are out there sharing it in their way, the more people are going to connect to it, and there's nothing wrong with that. That's
I
it.
mean, you could find me like literally chanting and enjoying that, and then literally doing yoga sculpt,
Same.
Bingo.
like very,
You
very
can do
filthy
both.
rap music. Like
Yeah.
literally, I can do that.
Hmm.
I can do
Hmm.
both. Like
Love it all.
I love it all. And like I don't know, in the past, I feel like I have been criticized in that frightened me, or it like took me back. I didn't really understand, like I think there was a some part of me that was not able to handle that. And then as I, moved through it, I was like, okay, all right, I'm good. It's fine. I just wanted to, you know, not have people be so angry about things. My
Mhm.
sister had wanted me to do yoga sculpt a long time ago, and I wouldn't put it at the studio because I was afraid for what people would say, like I was afraid that it would be like, oh, that's not yoga, and like all that kind of stuff. And then I finally let go of that. And that was a lot for me to do. I think I feared that people would have so many opinions about it. And people do, they do. But now I'm like,
Who
eh,
cares?
Whatever.
yeah,
Yeah.
Yeah. It's
exactly.
space. You're
I have to
offering
re
space for people to move and to release and to find and feel strong and confident. And like that is yoga in a different way. That is yoga. You're holding space for people to move and release and feel strong. And that there's nothing wrong with that. It's
I
a
feel
beautiful
like
thing.
it serves a different purpose. Like there are a lot of people that have told me, like my very own sister, she's not really that into like the actual just vinyasa.
hmm
She likes the yoga sculpt. That's kind of
Mhm.
why she wanted me to do the yoga sculpt.
Yeah.
And I would always be like, you should just do vinyasa, and it's like that's why I think that it encourages people that want to do yoga, but they want to do it in a
The
different way.
gateway drug. Yeah.
It's
Yeah.
yeah, and I think that's exactly it. I'm all for all of it. I love the yin, I love the sound healing, I love the restorative, I love the yoga with weights, I love the sculpt, I love it
Yeah.
all. I love
And
it all.
I have to remind myself too that there's a big difference between constructive feedback from people that give a shit about you and want you to grow and they want to see you succeed versus the criticism. Like
Right.
criticism is just a reflection of insecurity from the person throwing that out there. It really isn't helpful and doesn't mean anything to the person that they're talking about. Um, but it's not always easy to remember that, especially when you're in it, right? And like you said, you hear the criticism or you receive the criticism, not the constructive feedback, and it's kind of like, fuck. And you have to
Well,
like
it's
remind
also like,
yourself, like it's
is it when you have a business too, it's like you think about it from a point of view of like your business's like brand or what you're putting
mm,
out there. And I worried that, I already get, you know, with the internet, you get trolling, you get people say things to you, that when that first started happening to me years ago, that was one hurdle that to get over is like that for the first times that happens to you, you're like, what? And then you get over that. Eventually it becomes like nothing.
hmm
And it's just desensitizing yourself to that. And then eventually you realize like who in the world is taking the time to do this? And then it's just like I'm just a yoga studio in Pittsburgh, Pennsylvania. What is
yeah.
like the problem? I always think it's funny, like when I watch Bradshaw, and then
Hmm.
also, have you ever, I'm sure you know about like Yogi Bryan,
Yes.
yeah, and his like whole thing. And I talked to him. He had come to Pittsburgh because he cracks me up, and we had a great talk. And he's just like, oh my God, he's like, I get death threats, like daily death threats. And I'm like, oh my God. And he's like, yeah. He's like, I just fuck with these people right back, like all the time. He's like, I do not care. And I'm like, did you ever get like upset at all? He's like, I mean, maybe like the first two times. Like I was like, and he's like, now I'm just like, whatever. And I'm
Yeah.
like, okay. Like it just took me a minute to like get used to like that kind of like the way the world
Hmm.
is now.
Yeah, I'll
And
never be used to that.
Yeah.
I mean, I guess I'm not used to it, but I'm used to like
Don't have
not
to focus
freaking
on it.
out
Yeah.
Exactly.
that it's behind a screen. You know, when I grew up, if you wanted to like hate on me, you had to say it to my face at
Hmm.
school and
Yeah.
like in the
School.
lunchroom. Like, yeah.
Yes.
You had to like walk right up and be like, hey.
Be
And
brave.
we didn't like that just like behind the screen, like coming at you is like really like,
Hmm.
I don't know.
Yeah. It's silly. I have to say too, my husband is obsessed with the name the Om Lounge, and anytime I bring it up, he's like, "They won the name game. That is the best fucking name for a yoga studio." They won. And I'm
Oh
like,
my God, you know
"Okay."
where it comes from?
Where?
So I was in New Orleans and I was with a bunch of people and it was a bunch of friends. We were for one of my friends' 40th birthdays and we were in a hotel that was really cool and we were going down an elevator that was glass
Wow.
and we look out the elevator and there was a restaurant called the Ohm Lounge that was but they spelled it OHM
Mm,
and it was like a tapas restaurant. And we were like, that is such a cool name. That would be such a cool name for a yoga studio, the Om Lounge. And I just thought about it and held it into my heart. And I was like, yeah. But people
that's
always
good.
call it the Om Lounge.
Oh no, my
And
God.
my mom's like, people will think it's a bar. And we do get questions sometimes where like people send me an email and they're like, where's your menu?
Can we host a party here? What kind of alcohol
Yeah.
do you serve?
I'm like, well, yeah, you can. I mean,
Aw,
it's like if you want.
that's funny.
Yeah.
Well, the last question we always ask everyone, and we've had every answer under the sun. Do you
Oh
think
God.
yoga can change the world? Yes or no, and why?
Yes, I do. And why? Because every time you go into a yoga class, whatever you go in with, the at the end of the class, I mean, like it's just think about how when you leave, how you are when you leave. And so I feel like if I don't think yoga, yoga people aren't perfect. Yoga isn't, you know, there's still people are people. But I feel like if everyone was truly studying, like svadhyaya, right? If we were all able to really follow the philosophy and if people really committed to their practice. And I know for myself, if I am in a way and I'm all tied up inside or whatever, when I go into class and I have something on my mind or what I'm thinking about, it's usually never like I don't ever feel so strongly about either my anger or my whatever it is when I'm done. And so I feel like it's a great reset. And in general, the philosophy, I mean, I think it could change the world. I think it could stop wars. I think it could um, save relationships and um, help. I think it could help people. I think it could be a great way for people to, you know, handle their mental health. Yeah, I think it could save the world.
Full body
I think,
chills.
yeah,
Mic drop.
yeah, I do. I think it's so um valuable. And I don't really think I could have for me, it's the cornerstone of my life, my mental health. It's everything to me. And I don't mean that lightly. It's people often say they'll call me like it's kind of a joke in the own lounge, but they'll be like, you'll be Granny Sue's. I'll be in flowing robes with those glasses that go,
And why
and
can I see it?
I'll be teaching a rainbow warrior.
I can see it.
Yeah. Yes, I will. There's no doubt.
Oh, that's so good. That's the
Doing it till
juice.
I die.
Well,
That is the juice.
for anyone living under a rock, can you tell our listeners where to find you on social media?
Okay, well, you can find me at Om Lounge Sue's, and you can find generally me at Om Lounge Yoga too on social media. Yeah, that's where I live. On Om Lounge Sue's, you'll see a lot of dogs. I love my doggies.
Yay.
You make me so happy.
Me too. Dogs are the best. May too. May too. She loves her waffle.
Oh,
My whole feed is yoga, dogs, and like food. So
Yeah, pretty
I'm
much.
up for
yeah.
the
Same.
algorithm of the yoga and dog stuff
My
always.
whole feed is
Which
yoga, dogs, food's in there. So I like the recipes, I send them to my husband. I don't cook, so I send
Mhm.
them to him though. And then I like skincare and decor.
Mine's decor,
Mm.
like so much home decor. Like
Yeah, I got a lot of home decor too. That's my feed.
I don't have any more room on any walls. And today I bought another print, but it was this like it was a martini glass that was like it looks like a woman's body. And then there's like a head, it was like really cute. And then there were like three little olives like spilling out of it. And I was like, well, I don't know, but I'm gonna put it in a frame and throw it on some wall. It was really cute for no reason.
I know, I love home decor. And I get real sucked into the things where they're like they have like the hacks, like
Yes.
anything that's a hack. I'm like, my God, look at this. It's a hack. And like how you can like make stuff like I definitely like hacks or like dupes. I like dupes and
Yes.
hacks.
Most
Yeah.
recent hack that I saw on Instagram was if you like a pepper, like a sweet pepper, if you put it upside down and you have you guys seen this? You cut it like it's upside down and you cut it on like the seams and then it like flares open and then you just pull the middle seeds and it is like the easiest way to cut it. It just like
Oh my
cracks
God.
off. Yeah.
Just saw that with an onion.
And it works.
I've been cutting onions wrong my whole life. I'll have to send it to you.
Yeah. Love a hack.
Yeah, I saw some crazy hacks like the other day. I don't know. I love hacks. I go like it's wild. I love hacks. And I love any kind of like there's some really, really great home interior design like people that I watch that are like they'll just like make like I love watching people like design like a shelf,
Hmm.
like and put things in a certain place and like make it look really good. And then I'll like screenshot that and be like, "Ooh, I love
Hmm.
it." I
Yeah.
my husband's always like, he's afraid when he comes home, he's like, what did she move around today?
So fun.
He's
So
like,
fun.
really? Did you need to move that little thing to there? I'm like, yes, it's
Yes, I
just so
did.
much better over there, isn't it?
That's
It's
your
just like
Taurus
my
rising.
eye just goes right to it.
Yeah.
I'm like, what is like remember how it was like over there and it just was like off. And now it's over here. And it's just like oh, so much better. He's like,
He's like, okay, Suze, whatever makes you happy.
I'll think about it nonstop.
Well, thank you so much for your time. Truly, it's an honor to have you on here. We're so
Oh, thank
excited to
you
share
guys
your
for
story.
having me. I feel very honored to be on the yoga chat. I'm very excited that you guys asked me. It was really great to be on, talk
Yeah,
This
about
was
yoga.
really fun.
so fun. All right,
Now that we're done
guys.
all of our weekend teacher trainings, I can finally come back to the Ohm Lounge on the weekends because we haven't had a
Yeah.
weekend off since January. So now I just get to come be a student for a while until the next 200-hour training starts.
Oh, we're in
So
teacher training right
Oh,
now.
fun.
Yeah, we're in it. And so my time is very limited, but I am
Mhm.
like, I got to get out to the South Hills one of
Yeah.
these days and travel myself. I want to try out like some studios out there. Ruby, one of my teachers, she lives out
I
there.
love
And
Ruby.
I
Yeah.
know, isn't she unbelievable?
Yeah,
I just took her class the other night in our East Liberty studio on Thursday night. She is quite a gem. If you haven't taken her class,
I
Have
need
to.
to.
her
Yeah.
Dharma talks will have you like hypnotized. And then she does a guided meditation at the end. I mean, she's a natural. She was born to teach yoga.
hmm
Yeah.
Um,
I love when you can see that right away. You're like,
oh,
you were meant for this.
I'm a stan. Is that what they call it? Yeah.
Mhm.
I think that's
Yes.
I'll
I
check with
learned
my
to use.
12-year-old daughter when she gets home, but I think that's correct.
I think that's what they say. I called it the other day a stan fan, but I was like, but
That's
I
good.
checked, and I think you call it when you're a fan, a stan, right?
Stan.
A stan. I didn't know that until
I'm a
this moment.
stan for
So
Ruby. Ruby. I'm a
stand
stan
for
for Ruby.
Ruby.
Hmm.
All right. Well,
Hmm.
Ruby, we'll see you in your class
We
then.
will.
We'll get you on the yoga
Hmm.
chat too.
Yeah, you got to get on that, Ruby. She's great.
We'll talk to
Yay.
you soon, Suze. Thank you
All
so
right.
much.
Thank
Thank
you.
you. Bye.
Have a good
Bye.
day.